On-demand housing is a term that's gained a lot of traction recently. The idea that you can go online and book a place to live for months at a time without dealing with agents and hassles is a pretty appealing one. Today I spoke to Omer from Nestpick to see how his company brings all the offers for on-demand housing from all of the many providers onto one platform to make renting a place to live just that little bit easier. So, hi Omer. First question, could you tell me a little bit about what Nestpick does?
Hi Edmund. First of all, thanks for inviting me. Nestpick is a platform for on-demand housing, and as a platform, we operate with different suppliers. Just like Skyscanner in the flight segment, we are aggregating offers from major players as well as the local players that have suitable inventory, what we call on-demand housing. And by on-demand housing, we're basically mentioning furnished apartments and rooms for rent or other co-living accommodation units, basically the type of accommodation that people can start living in with their luggage. So they don't need to decorate the interiors, they don't need to sign up for year-long leases. So it's basically month-to-month leases of furnished units. And Nestpick is basically the largest database and largest platform for all of these types of inventory operating globally.
Okay. So you class yourself as an aggregator, right?
We used to call ourselves as an aggregator. Nowadays, we are calling ourselves as a platform, because currently in Nestpick, we also have, like, aside from having big platforms like Spot a Home, Verbo Booking, Airbnb, or HomeAway, Housing Anywhere, we are also operating with local property managers. So maybe one can, it resembles a little bit the platform play of Amazon or eBay. So we have large brands with their offerings, but we also allow smaller operators to showcase their listings. So we would like to be the everything store for on-demand housing. So for a long while, we called ourselves an aggregator, but nowadays we prefer to be called a platform because we also have direct relationship with the property managers.
Okay, and so walk me through it. If I'm just a person looking for a place to live, how does the process work? What does it look like?
As a user, when you search on Nestpick, you would see the on-demand housing offers from at least around 30 different providers in each of the biggest European and US cities. So we connect to more than 200 providers via APIs. We get the listing availability, images, amenities, and all the descriptions listed in a single platform in a very user-friendly interface backed by a machine learning-based algorithm that tries to show you most relevant apartments, and that gets better as you visit the website several times. And eventually, once you are interested in a unit listed on Nestpick and want to book the apartment, just as a side note, almost all of our units can be booked online, can be reserved online. And at that step, we are redirecting our users to the partner platforms. That partner platform could be HomeLike, that partner platform could be Wunderflat, or in some cases, that partner platform could be a property manager, where Nestpick actually helps that property manager to get a transaction.
Okay, so as I understand it, you bring property listings from lots and lots of different sources onto one platform. Would you say that perhaps in many countries, you have the biggest range, or if not the biggest range, one of the biggest range of rental properties on the market at the moment? If you're bringing them in from all over the place?
For on-demand housing, yes. For furnished apartments, I think it's a yes, except probably China and India. But for Europe and American markets, probably we already have the largest inventory. In the largest cities like New York, London, San Francisco or Madrid, we are aggregators from 30 different providers, including the largest players, most of which I think originated in Europe. We also originated in Europe. But in that sense, we have the largest amount of humanity. And that's basically the main value prop we give to our users. Like I myself, I have lived in 3 different countries, 6 different cities. And every time I moved, the biggest hassle was finding an accommodation. And basically what you want is to find your top match. You are not that much considered about having that top match in Airbnb or having that top match from Spotahome or any other platform. You want to see what's available out there. You want to find out your top match, and that top match should match your needs. Because when I moved to Germany or when I moved to US, when I tried to use the local classifieds like Zillow.com or Immobilien Scout, all of the landlords were asking my local credit score. And when you are moving from another country, you don't have any local credit score, even if you have $1 million in your bank account. So there are some suppliers, there are some providers that help these international segment of people. And you also cannot bring in your furniture. It will take a lot of time. So that was the main intention when we built Nestpick as a platform and aggregated all the offers. And back then, I think everyone was more interested in the how do I say, like revenue per booking or revenue per user. So we wanted to just think from the user's point of view, and sounded like the market was very fragmented. You can rent it from Airbnb, you can rent it from local classified, you can rent it from all of these like 10 different new wave platforms. So we ended up with this play purely thinking on the user side. When supply was the powerful piece of the market. And
this idea of on-demand living is something that's really gaining traction over the last few years, and especially recently. Yes. Even in 2020, it's perhaps one of the businesses that is perhaps benefiting from what we're living in 2020. So how has 2020 been for you guys?
I think in 2 words, it's a roller coaster, right, for us. But here's what happened. Like last year or previous years, when I speak to a VC, everyone was questioning the total size of the market, total size of the people that may need on-demand housing, because we are targeting in between 30 days to 1 year stays. And above 1 year, it was a huge market. Below 1 month, it's a huge market. But there was this specific niche that we targeted, and that was mostly relevant for expatriates, consultants, international students. With the pandemic, with everyone's closing their borders and everyone's getting back home, we lost, I think, at a time, I'm talking about the weekly values because I think monthly values are misleading. People are saying like, I dropped by 40% monthly, but there's 1 week in April, 2nd week of April, we were down by around 70% versus January levels. And then as the market started a little bit easing out, please make sure to understand there is no consultants anymore. Everyone is working from home. There is no international students. Erasmus program or all the study abroad programs have been diminished. And there is no colleges. I think only a few percentage of students are back in their university campuses. So our previous core users are nowhere. But now I think end of August, we did 50% more conversions than January, pre-pandemic levels, with 70% less marketing cost. And but we know that it's a different audience because our core audience is not there. They're like, the US still has the closed borders, still bans L1A, H1B, and all the student visas. And the same is done from Europe to the Americans. So I think the only open borders are within Europe, but we still managed to have a bigger business than before. I think that shows that work from anywhere or work from home is widely acknowledged and embraced. And in situations, people don't want to be stuck in major cities for the 12 months of the year. And they, even despite pandemic, they started moving around, this time in longer time frames. And the locations also changed. And it looks like post-pandemic, if there is a post-pandemic day, if the all borders will open up and if the students will go back to campus, I think Nestpick and everyone in on-demand housing market will face a much, much larger market than before. And I think that can even go towards the path that in 10 years from now, on-demand housing would be one of the mainstream ways of living for especially the younger generations. When you don't have your kids going to school, when you can work from anywhere, I think it's a top fit with the current younger generations coming up. If the work from anywhere culture is embraced, I think this could be one of the major ways of living. And that's why actually we are even more excited than before. Like, we lost a lot of business. We still have lost opportunity because we've been growing by 3x year on year for 3 years straight. So having 50% is not something that we are proud of. But we know that when there is normalization, we could probably target a much larger audience, because the audience that we target now is different than the one before.
So my last question to you, which you've sort of answered a little bit there, is what does the future of renting look like? How can we make it easier?
I think we should also look at the history of renting. I think 20 or 25 years from now, earlier, most of the media companies owned newspapers, and they had yellow pages where they listed available rentals, and people used to call those agents and arrange a viewing and then rent the apartment. So basically, the classifieds that we see in all these developed markets having at least $1 billion valuation, they just changed this yellow pages to an internet page. Because currently in Idealista or in Immobilienscout or in Zillow, what you do basically, you see the phone number of the agent, you can send them a message. Yes, that's an additional perk, but the rest of the process is the same with 25 years ago. And I believe the younger generation, the people that are born today, they are born in a pure technological world. And I believe it will be slow, but still the most convenient way of renting an apartment will be just like calling an Uber in the future. That's the vision that we have. And we believe that this is probably a little bit accelerated with coronavirus crisis, because the agents started doing virtual viewings, and the people, prospect tenants, said, why do I go to a viewing with many other people? I have an anecdote here. I was in Berlin. I was staying in a furnished apartment. I stayed in 6 different on-demand housing from Nestpick partners. So I'm a curious user of our platform. But then I said, okay, I'm in Berlin. I can save a little bit more money. Let's go for a long-term lease with an unfurnished unit. I went to a viewing in Mitte with 35 other people at the same time. And the moment I stepped into that, I said, okay, this is not the future. I'm sure about it. And now with Corona, I think it's a little bit accelerated. And the future of renting, maybe if the classifieds play it right, would add this, or classifieds would be the yellow pages. But the future looks like it's a transactional platform. It will be something like Uber. It will be something like you order food, and imagine your experiences 10 years ago. That's the vision we have. And I think one last note, I was speaking to some senior managers from kayak.com, And she told me that back in 2008 or 2007, they didn't have a transactional business with hotels. They were calling the hotels or faxing the hotels to book the rooms. And it's just 12, 13 years now. If there is any left that does only or fax. In the real estate market, in the rentals market, it's more retail investors, it's more smaller players. So that's why it's taking more time. Maybe the catch-up rates, the acknowledgement rates would be slower than hotels, but it will eventually happen.
It sounds like a nice future if we can just log on and book a place to live. That sounds great. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us, Omer. We look forward to seeing that future soon, hopefully.
Thank you very much.